Hey, welcome back. In this video, we will go over a brief DevOps roadmap and all the components related to it. We will discuss things like language selection, cloud provider, infrastructure, CI/CD, monitoring, and containers, which really became an important part of DevOps culture in the last few years. To start off, we have language. So I'm going to go here. These are some of the languages I selected, and I think they fit the DevOps use case very nicely. First, we have Go. Go is a statically typed yet expressive language with a focus on concurrency. A lot of big projects such as Kubernetes and Docker uses Go. And in recent years, it has really proven its worth in the DevOps area. Also, if you noticed, I've highlighted Go. That means personally, I think that might be a great choice. Next, we have Python. So Python needs no introduction. It's a dynamic language and it has really taken over the world in the last few years. It is used extensively but not limited to areas like machine learning and data science. And since it's easy to use, it works with DevOps very well. A big project that I can think of right now that uses Python is AWS CLI. I'm sure there are tons more. Next, we have node.js. So Node is a runtime for writing server-side JavaScript. And since the last 10 years, it has been growing exponentially. And with projects like ZX from Google, I'm really enjoying writing scripts with Node.js. Next is Ruby. Ruby is also a dynamic language with a focus on simplicity and productivity. It might not be the fastest language, but it gets the job done. With that, we covered our languages, and next, let's move on to cloud providers. So you might ask, why do we need cloud provider? So cloud providers basically gives us on-demand availability of computer resources such as storage and computing power without direct active management by the user. And each day, a lot of companies are migrating to these platforms. To start with, we have AWS. And personally, it's one of my favorites. If you want to learn more about AWS, I have a separate roadmap on that. I'll leave a link in the description below. Next is Microsoft Azure. Azure also has fantastic services. A lot of big companies like Microsoft and IBM uses Azure. Next, we have GCP, also known as Google Cloud Platform. Similar to others, Google also provides great services, especially if you are planning to use containers. They have services like Cloud Run and Google Kubernetes Engine or GKE if you want to run containers at scale. Next, we have DigitalOcean. Some of you might be surprised why I put DigitalOcean here. While they might not be the most feature-rich cloud provider, just like AWS, Azure or GCP, but they are very easy to get started with. And if you are an absolute beginner, I really recommend trying DigitalOcean. Before we move on to next section, I will add that you cannot go wrong with either of these. Now let's go to infrastructure. So here we will discuss things related to infrastructure, such as provisioning and configuration management. Starting off with provisioning, we have one of my favorite tools of all time, Terraform. Terraform is an infrastructure as code tool created by HashiCorp. It uses HashiCorp configuration language, which is strange at first, but you will get used to it quite easily. Terraform is a very powerful tool and it's cloud agnostic. This allows us to use most of the cloud providers without having to learn any additional tool. Next is CDK or Cloud Development Kit by AWS. It's a framework for defining cloud infrastructure in code and provisioning it through AWS CloudFormation. You can use languages such as TypeScript, Java, Go, and many more. It's a vendor-specific tool. It only works with AWS, but it's fantastic. Next is Pulumi. It is kind of a mix between Terraform and CDK. It is cloud agnostic, but we can still use any of our favorite languages like TypeScript, Go, and many more. Now, let's move on to configuration management. So this might be a little confusing, but provisioning and configuration management are not mutually exclusive. And most configuration management tools can do some degree of provisioning. And here, we can start with Ansible. So Ansible is an open source project supported by Red Hat, and it's a great way to automate your infrastructure. Next, we have Chef. Similar to Ansible, it is also an automation and configuration management tool. And similarly, we have Puppet. It is also used for configuration management. It is quite simple to get started with and requires limited programming knowledge. If you are a beginner, Puppet might be a great fit for you. And with that, we covered our infrastructure. And now let's move on to CI/CD. So CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery. It is one of the most important part of DevOps because it helps us deliver our code more frequently and reliably. And here we will go over some of these tools. So first is GitHub Action. Since it was released, it has really taken over the industry. If you are using GitHub, which is quite common these days, you are already familiar with GitHub Actions. It is really easy to get started and it's really powerful. Personally, it's one of my favorite CI/CD tools. Next is Jenkins. It is also a very powerful tool, but can be intimidating at first. However, it is widely used in the industry and you cannot go wrong with it. Next is Circle CI. Similar to Jenkins, Circle CI is also very powerful, but it is also lightweight. And it also provides self-hosted solutions. Next is TeamCity. It is a continuous integration server developed by JetBrains. You may recognize JetBrains from their fantastic work on IDEs such as IntelliJ, Android Studio, PyCharm, and many more. Personally, I haven't tried this yet, but it's getting a lot of adoption recently and it's worth looking into. With that, we completed our CI/CD section and let's move on to monitoring. So here I have divided it into 3 parts. First is infrastructure, then we have application, and finally we have logs. Starting with infrastructure monitoring, we have Prometheus. So Prometheus is used for event monitoring and alerting. It uses time series database built with HTTP pull model. It also has flexible queries and real-time alerting support. Next, we have Datadog. It provides observability service for cloud scale application through a SaaS-based data analytics platform. It also provides monitoring for servers, databases, and other services. And next we have Grafana. So Grafana is also a similar tool, but it really shines with great data visualization via chart, graphs, and maps. Next we have application monitoring. Here we will start off with OpenTelemetry. It is an initiative by Cloud Native Computing Foundation or CNCF, and it is basically a collection of tools, APIs, and SDKs used to instrument, generate, collect, and export telemetry data. It is also available in tons of languages from Node.js, Go to Elixir. Personally, I think OpenTelemetry is the right way to move forward as it kind of consolidates everything. Next, we have New Relic. So New Relic is one of the leading observability platforms where we can import our data from multiple sources and analyze it. Next, we have Jaeger. It provides tracing for complex distributed systems, and it was made by Uber. I think it is being migrated in favor of OpenTelemetry. Next, we have log monitoring. And here, one of my favorite one is Logstash. So Logstash is a lightweight open source server-side data processing pipeline that allows you to collect data from a variety of sources, transform it on the fly, and send it to your desired destination. Next is LogDNA. It is more of a centralized log management solution. I recently got to work with it and I think it's surprisingly nice to use. And finally, we have Splunk. So Splunk can perform capturing, indexing, and correlating of real-time data in a searchable container and produces graph, alerts, dashboard, and visualization. With that, we covered our monitoring section, and now let's move on to containers. So for our container needs, we have Docker. So Docker doesn't need any introduction. It is one of my all-time favorite tools, and it has really changed the industry from the ground up and how we think about running applications at scale. Plus, it also makes development efficient and predictable. Previously, I've created some content on Docker. I'll leave a link in the description below. So next is Podman. So Podman is a daemonless container engine for developing, managing, and running OCI containers, where OCI stands for Open Container Initiative. I think it's a really promising alternative to Docker and has a lot of potential. And next we have container orchestration. So container orchestration deals with automation of running containerized workload and services. Here we start with Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is an orchestration system for automating computer application deployment, scaling, and management. It is developed by Google and now maintained by Cloud Native Computing Foundation or CNCF. Personally, I think Kubernetes is the industry leader here, so it's definitely worth looking into. Next is OpenShift. It is similar to Kubernetes, but more of a commercial offering by Red Hat. Personally, I think it is also worth looking into. Next is Docker Swarm. So Docker includes a Swarm mode for natively managing a cluster of Docker engines. While Docker Swarm might not have all the features of other alternatives such as Kubernetes, it is very beginner friendly. And finally, we have Mesos. So Mesos is a project from UC Berkeley and it uses a 2-level scheduler architecture. It is used heavily by companies like Apple, Twitter, Netflix, and many more. So this covers our containers section. And now let's try to fit our roadmap on the screen. So this is how our roadmap looks like. I hope you got a holistic view of all the tools available and identified what you want to learn. So this is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.